channel. My name is Stasia and I'm following a high carb, low fat, oil-free, plant-based diet based on the recommendations of Dr. John McDougall's book called The Starch Solution. I was trying to get this video filmed before the sun went down and it's going down right now. So hopefully the lighting isn't too bad and you guys can just bear with me. Okay, so if it's your first time here, my channel is all about my own personal health and weight loss journey following a whole food, oil-free, plant-based diet. And of course, as well as helping you with yours. So I welcome you to check out my channel. I have tons of what I eat in a day videos. I have recipe videos. I have lots of videos where I go into a little bit more in-depth explaining this way of eating and basically what I'm doing, as well as if you'd like to get to know me a little bit more. Then I do have a video where I explain how I lost a ton of weight, as well as curing a mystery illness that had me sick for about 2 years, basically following a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So be sure to check that out. I will have that link in my description box below. Furthermore, if you're new to this lifestyle, or if you're just looking for a community of people that eat the same way as you do, then I run an awesome Facebook group that has over 2,000 very active members where we share our successes, we talk about our struggles, we post our recipes. So be sure to check out my Facebook group. That also will be linked in my description box below. We would love to have you there. Okay, so enough chit chat, let's get into it. So for today's video, I wanted to show you guys something that can really simplify this way of eating, and I like to call them my one and done meals. Well, what the heck is a one and done meal? A one and done meal is basically as it sounds. You have one easy meal ready to go and you're done. No more fussing in the kitchen. So as I've been explaining a lot in some of my more recent videos about trying not to focus too much on complicated recipes, you know, we probably all watched 1,000 YouTube videos, our favorite YouTubers, a ton of cookbooks. But the truth is, keeping it simple is actually the most successful way of following this lifestyle. I actually love these kinds of meals because they are just so easy. They have your starches, they have your non-starchy vegetables mixed up into one yummy meal. They can be made in advance, they can be batch cooked, they can be frozen in most cases. So honestly, they are just my favorite. And so today I want to share with you guys just how easy it can be. Oh, and before I forget, so the first meal that I filmed for you guys was actually at my mom's house because I was dog sitting for her while she was at work. So you guys will be able to say hello to her fur babies as well as seeing what I was up to in the kitchen. So if the background looks different, that's why we're at mom's house for the first meal and the next 2 meals were at my house. So anyways, with all that being said, let's get in the kitchen. All right, so this first meal I was actually raised on. This is my mom and dad's anytime hash browns. I like to call them anytime hash browns because really they can be eaten anytime. They're great for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So as you can see, we are just starting out with some potatoes, some garlic, some onions, and a ton of different spices, which don't worry about that. I will be going through those in a bit. So today I was lucky enough to have a little helper in the kitchen. You guys can't see him, but that's my son, and he was wanting to help mommy cut the potatoes. So I decided to give him his own knife, and he was working away on a piece of potato off to the side. So anyhow, to get started on these anytime hash browns, you just want to peel all of your potatoes and of course wash them. Next, you're going to slice them, aiming for a thin to medium thickness. And don't worry about the shape being perfect because once they start cooking, they're going to get broken up anyhow. So really the important thing to watch out for is just having them about the same thickness, just so that they cook evenly. Once you're done chopping them, throw them in a large bowl or a colander, something that you can soak them in water, because once we start chopping our onions and our garlic, we're just gonna let them soak for a while just to get some of that extra starch off. So once they're soaking in some cool water, just set it off to the side and we'll get started prepping the other veggies. But before we get to that, let's say hello to this handsome fellow keeping me company in the kitchen. This is my brother's dog and his name is Bronson. Yes, he is terrifying to look at, but he is the biggest sweetheart. I almost forgot to show you guys what an excellent job my little man did chopping the potatoes with mommy. So in they go with the rest of them. All right, so now you just want to simply chop up your onion and your garlic. There is no particular size or way that you need to cut it, just whatever your preference is. I like to dice mine up small to medium bite-sized pieces, but of course you can mince it, you can make it bigger or smaller. It's all just a matter of your own personal preference. Okay, so once they're ready to go, you're just gonna start by throwing the chopped onion into a heated frying pan. I always like to start with the onions first because they do take a little bit longer to cook than the garlic. So I just started by adding a little bit of water just to pan fry it. Of course, we don't use any oil in this way of eating. So water sauteing or even using a little broth is a perfect way to pan fry some onions and garlic. After about 5 to 6 minutes of water sauteing the onions and garlic, you're ready to throw in the potatoes. Once the potatoes come out of that water, you just want to give them a quick rinse before throwing them in. Next, you want to cover the potatoes in water. Don't worry about adding too much water as the water will cook off, and in fact, there's a good chance you'll probably end up needing to add more. And now for the magic of this recipe, the spices. So we're gonna start first by adding oregano. You can use either the flaked oregano or the ground oregano. I find that using the ground oregano has a little bit more flavor, so that's what you see me using there. Next, I will be adding dried basil. As you can see, I'm just eyeballing the spices. However, when I post the recipe in my description box below, I will give suggested amounts. Next, I'm throwing in a little bit of onion powder, seeing how I already have onions in the potato mix. Then I'm throwing in some chili powder, just a little bit as my kids will be eating this, so I don't want it too spicy. Then I'm throwing in some garlic powder. Again, I already have garlic in here, but I do love me some garlic. Next, I'm throwing in some cumin. I just love cumin in this dish, so I'm adding quite a bit more than probably my mom or dad do. And then lastly, I'm adding in some soy sauce. This actually gives it a little bit of a nice brown color. That was a little tip my mom gave me. And with vinegar. So vinegar just gives it that a little acidic punch and just brings the whole dish together. Once you've added all your spices, you just want to give it a good mix just to make sure that it's all nice and even. And again, there's no hard rules, guys. If some of those spices are not your favorite, just leave them out or add ones that are. And lastly, you just want to throw the lid on it, and we're actually just going to let it sit and cook without even touching it for at least 20 minutes or so. After about 20 minutes, you just want to check on it, make sure that they're cooking evenly. As you can see, they're starting to get soft, but we're not quite there yet. It's important to keep the lid on as it traps the moisture in and helps them cook better, and I'm cooking them on medium heat. So now this is about another 10 minutes later, so about 30 minutes in total at this point. As you can see, they're really starting to break up, and that's when you know that we're on the home stretch. So from this point forward, again, around the 30-minute mark, when they start really breaking up, you just want to make sure that they're all nicely covered, they're all cooking evenly, and we are going to leave the lid off at this point because all that extra liquid you see, we want that to cook off a little bit now. So it was probably another 10 minutes or so to let this extra liquid cook off, and then it turned out looking like this. So as you can see, the liquid is almost completely gone, but we're still not quite there yet, so it still needs just a few more minutes. So while we wait, why don't we go say hi to my brother's other dog. Hi, Odin. And this is my mother's dog, Snickers. She was very excited to be on camera. And lastly, this is Bowser. This is almost a 20-year-old turtle, another pet of my brother's. Can you tell my family loves animals? All right, back to the cooking. So now the potatoes are where we want them to be. As you can see, they're starting to brown on the bottom of the pan. So my mom actually loves them being a little bit on the brown side. So the trick to doing that is to keep them on the burner until they are almost kind of burning, and then you want to take them off of the heat. The reason you want to do this is because you want them to slightly cool before you scrape the bottom. That way you'll get some nice browned hash browns. So my mom actually probably lets it sit a little bit longer than what I even did. And she said if you want them to be even browner, you can return it to the heat once you've mixed it up, let it sit again, get brown, and then cool it and scrape it. Now it's worth mentioning that these hash browns are delicious just as they are. In fact, my kids eat them like this all the time. But in order for me to complete this as a true one and done meal, I definitely want to add some veggies to it. So as you can see, here is some sauerkraut that I picked up from my local health food store. It is absolutely delicious. So I guess this is a little bit of the Polish side in me, sauerkraut and potatoes, but oh my gosh, as far as I'm concerned, you just can't go wrong. And cabbage in itself is extremely healthy for you, and fermented cabbage all the same. So I'm just adding some sauerkraut and then topping it with some diced organic tomato on top, and then adding a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm telling you, this was so fantastic. I actually made my mom a plate as well. So when she came home from work, she had these anytime hash browns, because once again, they're good for any time of the day, not just breakfast. This is such a delicious one and done meal. You have your starch, you have your veggies. You can prep this in advance. It keeps for days in the fridge, and the whole family will like it. Thanks, Mom, for helping. Okay, so for the second one and done meal, I want to show you guys, it's something I call my sweet orange soup. No, there are no oranges in the recipe. I am referring to the color. So all you'll need is 1 onion, 1 sweet potato. We're going to be using, I think, about 4 to 5 carrots. And then I have some organic sweet mini peppers that I got from my local health food store. However, any peppers will do. And then we'll be using some vegetable broth. If you're watching your salt, then you can actually omit the broth altogether. I just like to use it just because it adds some extra flavor, or you can buy the unsalted version as well. Then we're going to be using a couple cloves of garlic, and here I already have some chickpeas that I had made previously a couple of days ago in my Instant Pot, so we are going to be adding that to the soup at the end. And that's it, very simple ingredients, so let's get started and I'll show you guys how I do it. So we're just going to start by chopping up an onion and some garlic. And again, you can use as much or as little of either that you want. I personally love the taste of onion and garlic, so I can never go wrong. So I'm just using a medium-sized onion here, and you just want to chop it up into nice bite-sized pieces or whatever you prefer. And I just wanted to mention, for those of you who have seen my preloading video, that this is not what I would consider a soup for preloading. This is what I would consider a starchy soup. For those of you who haven't seen my video on preloading, I will have the link posted in my description box below. It is an excellent way of actually expediting your weight loss, so I would definitely encourage you to check that video out if you haven't already seen it yet. Okay, so before we start chopping up our other ingredients, we're just going to start by sauteing our onions and garlic. So here I'm just actually using a little bit of the vegetable broth to saute the onions. After the onions were cooking for about 5 minutes or so, then I added in the garlic. So basically you just want to let these simmer for a few minutes, and in the meantime we'll get started chopping the other ingredients. So I'm starting by chopping my harder veggies, which is the sweet potato and the carrots. As far as the sweet potato goes, I like to chop it into really tiny bite-sized pieces, as they do tend to hold the shape in the soup, so you don't want it to be too large. So as you can see, I just dice them into circles and then into quarters. And of course, the same goes with the carrots. You just want to make sure that they're a nice bite-sized piece. So once you have the carrots and the sweet potatoes chopped, then you can go ahead and add it right into the pot. Before adding any other liquid, you just want to give everything a good mix. Get the sweet potatoes and the carrots blended nicely with the onions and garlic, and then we're going to add the remaining amount of that vegetable broth. Often, instead of using 2 containers of vegetable broth, I'll just use 1, and then I'll use water as the remaining liquid. That's another great way to reduce the salt intake in a soup. So while I bring that to a boil, I'm just going to prep and chop my peppers, and again, you just want them to be in bite-sized pieces as well. Honestly, soups are such an easy and convenient all-in-one meal, especially if you're new to this way of eating, or if you're struggling with the no oil thing, then honestly, you don't even miss it with the soup. They're also great because they can be super inexpensive. It works with using either fresh or frozen vegetables. You make it in large amounts, it keeps well in the fridge, as well as it can be frozen. So unlike the anytime hash browns that had a ton of spices, this soup actually only has garlic powder, but I find that the sweetness of the carrots and sweet potatoes are just enough and not a lot of spices needed. And for those of you who find this way of eating challenging when you're going to work or if you're on the go, This, my friends, is a lifesaver. I've shown this in, I think, 1 or 2 of my other videos. It was a random purchase that I made on Amazon for myself. It is a huge soup thermos. It might not even look as big as it actually is on film here, but let me tell you, it's huge. And the soup stays hot all day. I can put soup in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I swear by 8 p.m. it's still piping hot. This thing is magical. The first time I showed you guys this, I completely forgot to post the Amazon link in my description box, and a lot of you were asking for it, so it will definitely be posted below in this description box. Oh yeah, my daughter borrowed this from me yesterday, and it came back with a dent. I was not very happy about that, but anyways, guys, you can't go wrong. This thermos is amazing. All right, guys, so while the soup is finishing up, I'm just actually going to get myself some chickpeas ready to throw in my soup. I've talked about this before. I love batch cooking my beans separately, so that way when I do have a meal such as a soup or a salad or a dip or something like that, then the beans are already ready to go versus cooking the soup directly with the beans or having the salad directly with the beans. I prefer to have the beans on the side. I just find it so much more convenient that way, and also it just gives me the option of what bean I feel like eating with that particular meal. Beans are extremely healthy for you. They're full of fiber, they keep you full, they reduce your sugar cravings. So I also love that soup is a very easy way to get them in. So one final step to the soup, which is completely unnecessary. I just like to do it for the color and the texture, but I just scooped out 2 mugfuls of the soup to blend up, and then I'm going to add it back in. So as you can see, it gives it a really rich color as well as a little bit of a creamier texture. Now, can you see why I call it my sweet orange soup? Look at that gorgeous orange color. It is so, so delicious. Both my kids love this. And in fact, I should mention that this soup is also fantastic blended up completely. That's actually how my kids prefer it. So you could try it that way if you're looking for more of a creamier soup. Because my beans are already cooked, I don't even actually throw it in the cooking process. I just dump them in just like this when the soup is piping hot, and literally within 1 minute, so are the beans. This soup is such a treat. It's full of flavor, and I've also actually had it with black beans, and it was just as delicious. I really hope you guys give this a try and enjoy. This last one and done meal is one that you actually don't even need a recipe for. These were ingredients I already had on hand, and I'm gonna throw it together to show you guys how easy a one and done meal can be whipped up. So as you can see, I have some kale there. That's some organic, beautiful kale from my local health food store. And here I'm showing you just a pre-cut broccoli coleslaw, and there's an onion as well as some brown and white rice that I had already cooked the day before. I like to mix up the brown and white rice just because my kids are not a huge fan of brown rice. So I find that when I mix it up, it's not that big of an issue. And lastly, I have some black beans that I had already prepared. For those of you who have been following me, you already know how much I love to repurpose old glass jars. So I do like to keep my beans in there as well. So I'll be using black beans in this dish too. So let's get started. So no surprise here, we're going to start this meal off by chopping up some onions. And just like before, I just like to chop them into bite-sized pieces. And then we're going to throw them in the pan and water saute them. The more you start cooking using no oil, the more tips you start to kind of learn along the way. So the best one is you really want to have a good non-stick pan, and water will do the trick. Secondly, as I mentioned before, if you use a little bit of soy sauce, it does kind of give it that nice browning effect, as well as a little bit of salt. Okay, so after I rinsed off the pre-packaged broccoli, cabbage, and carrots, now I'm going to add it to the onion mixture. What's also great about these pre-packaged veggie mixes is that they can actually be used for a salad as well. I love the fact that they can be eaten cooked or raw, so it actually makes for 2 potential meals that you can have. They're great for saving time and convenient. Okay, and now you see me just adding some of my organic kale. I think I used about 2 leaves to add to this mixture. So a tip with the greens is to finely chop them, just so you don't get a mouthful of really fibrous kale. It's so much nicer when it's finely chopped. And I thought the camera was on when I was adding the rice and beans, and I found out after the fact that it wasn't. So sorry about that. I added about 2 cups of rice and about 1/2 cup of the black beans, and it was oh so beautiful the way I added it. But anyhow, this is the after effect once you mix it all together. So do you all see how easy it is to create a one and done meal? You have your starch, which is your rice and beans, and then you have your non-starchy veggies mixed right in with it, which is the kale, the cabbage, the carrots, the onions. So you've got everything in one meal. Again, another meal that can be prepped in advance, taken to work or on the go, and another meal that the whole family can enjoy. So here you just see me adding a little bit of soy sauce and some lime juice just to bring it all together. Honestly, look at this. So colorful, so healthy, so delicious. Seriously, give this a try if you don't have the exact ingredients that I had in my fridge. Again, don't be afraid to experiment with your own. Easy enough, right? And how cute are my mom's dogs, seriously. Oh, and my brother's turtle. I almost forgot about him. I think his name is, Bowser. He's almost 20 years old, by the way, 20 years old. Anyhow, you definitely have to give those hash browns a try. My parents have been vegetarian since the 70s, before it was popular for living a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. So they definitely had to do a lot of home cooking and they nailed it. So definitely try Mom and Dad's anytime hash browns. I'm sure you will enjoy them. And as I always like to say and remind you guys, that there are no hard rules with any of this. So if you don't like some of the ingredients that I showed today and you have some of your favorites in your fridge right now, don't be afraid to experiment yourself. You know, you can try combining things that maybe you wouldn't have ever thought to combine before and surprise yourself. So really have fun in the kitchen. Take this lifestyle lightly. Don't try to be too serious and get too caught up in complicated recipes, especially if you're just starting out. So I really recommend just prepping your ingredients in the beginning of the week or whatever day of the week works for you, and just having a ton of things, your potatoes, beans, rice, have your main starches ready to go in the kitchen. And then, you know, on days where your day is kind of getting away on you, you're just getting home from work, you've been busy with the kids, you've already got the stuff ready in the fridge and you can just pull it out, throw it all together, and there you go. You have a wonderful, easy, healthy meal. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it here. But again, if it's your first time checking out my channel, first of all, welcome. And secondly, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. As I mentioned before, I put out tons of what I eat in a day videos, recipe videos, updates on myself, and of course, everything that I'm learning along the way, I share with you. So I would love to have you on board, so please feel free to hit the subscribe button. And for the rest of you, as always, thank you so much for watching my videos, supporting my channel, and following along. I hope all of you are doing wonderful, and we will see you in the next one.